Hello everybody, this is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-minute history videos. And today I'm in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, Canada, 950 nautical miles north of Baltimore. If you've been following along real time, you know that for the past week I've had the privilege of joining the captain and crew aboard the Pride 2 on the first leg of its summer-long journey into the Great Lakes. I'm getting off here. The Pride 2 and its folks are continuing going, but I thought before going home to Baltimore, I'd take advantage of being up here in Canada and do a video on Lunenburg and how it relates to its southern neighbor, us. First of all, if you haven't been to Lunenburg, you gotta get here fast. It is old, it is gorgeous, it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, really very pretty. Lunenburg got its start in 1753 as part of Canada, named after Duke Braunschweig-Lunenburg from Germany, who went on to become King George II. I guess back then family mattered more than nationality to become king. But the territory here was occupied years before by the Micmac people, and then by the early 1600s by the Acadia settlers from France. Apparently, the Micmac and the Acadians lived pretty peacefully, the records show, for about 100 years, maybe even intermarrying occasionally. But then war broke out between Britain and France in the early 1700s. In the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713, France ceded this part of its territory to Great Britain. And so Great Britain put a fort that became Halifax and then marched in 1753 over here to take over Lunenburg. From the beginning, Lunenburg has been all things maritime. It is right here on the water, perfectly situated for all sorts of fishing. But it has also, from the beginning, been intertwined with its southern neighbor, the United States. During the Revolutionary War, there were pirateers from the United States that didn't stop at just taking over ships from Great Britain. They came here and sacked the entire town in 1782. In the War of 1812, Lunenburg maybe had learned its lesson. It fortified itself and then went on the offensive. And privateers from Lunenburg and Halifax came down and raided ships on the North Atlantic from the United States. It was a dangerous place to be if you were an American ship up near here. During the Civil War, even though Great Britain was independent, it did not declare sides of the Civil War. Many folks from Lunenburg and Nova Scotia generally came down and fought on the side of the Union predominantly. And although it wasn't a war, during Prohibition, Lunenburg was a hotspot for running liquor to the United States. I believe we in Maryland were the only state not to adopt statewide standards and enforcement standards for Prohibition. We were a wet state. And I am sure that a lot of our wetness came from here in Lunenburg. In addition to all that history stuff, there is a history living here today. Let me share a few wonderful spots. The Romke House dates to 1783. It's said to be the oldest house in Lunenburg. But what's amazing is that about 40 years ago, it had a renovation and found that it actually was built on top of and incorporated an older house from about 1630. That's the Acadia settler days. So really old. St. John's Anglican Church, the big white one up on the hill, dates to 1754, just a year after the town was founded. It had a tower added in the 1840s, and an expansion in the 1870s, electricity in 1901, and then a fire in 2001. But it was so beloved, the town rallied and rebuilt it spectacularly to what it is today. And then finally, the ship, the Blue Nose 2, unbelievably parallel to the Pride of Baltimore 2. It was modeled after an earlier boat, the Blue Nose. It was built in 1921, and under Captain Agnes Walters, it won almost all of the races that it entered, including against American boats. It became so beloved that the folks here in Lunenburg and Nova Scotia, and indeed all of Canada, have embraced it. There have been commemorative postage stamps for it. It is even today on the Canadian dime. Let me wrap up by reflecting a moment on what it's been like to be part of the Pride of Baltimore 2 on this first leg of its goodwill journey by sort of repeating some of the sentiments from Captain Jan Miles, the captain of the ship. I asked him what it was like to sail into a distant port and have people cheering and then come on board. What was their reaction? And he said their reaction was one of gratitude. They were thankful that we in Baltimore and Maryland had taken the trouble to build the boat, to equip it with a captain and crew, and then to sail it all the way up into their hometown. Now in Baltimore, we share our pride, our heritage in a lot of ways. We've got crab cakes and Natty Boh, we've got artscape and house music, but I will humbly say that this ship bothering to sail across the ocean into somebody's front yard, their hometown, is a powerful message of what we are all about in Baltimore. So to my new friends on the Pride of Baltimore, I will wish you the sailor's farewell, a farewell and fair winds as you continue on your journey. And to everybody else, I'll see you back in Baltimore.